Never before has an American interest in studying the language, politics, and culture of the Arab world been stronger among college-age students. Record numbers of Americans are taking courses on Arabic and choosing to study abroad in the Middle East. And yet, there is a huge gap in the student interest and the available resources to facilitate studying abroad in the Middle East and North Africa. My name is Elizabeth Harmon, and I hope to bridge this gap. The initiative I will be speaking to you about today is my ongoing development of a comprehensive, trusted portal for students interested in studying in Arabic abroad. Clicker. babsharki.org. Babsharki is Arabic for Eastern Gate, which is one of the 8 gates into the Old City in Damascus. The gate is located on the eastern wall so that when you leave the comfort of your home and community inside the Old City, you walk out into the world facing east. Babsharki.org will be the student gateway to study in the Middle East. More specifically, its purpose is to address the gaps in knowledge and key points of friction one encounters while planning and doing study abroad. Those things that make the leap from interested student to settled expatriate so daunting. I'm going to highlight these difficulties one by one and describe how babsharki.org was inspired by my own experiences and how it will address these challenges. Information on study programs and Arabic schools will be the central component of the website. Beginning in August 2010, I took a year off from pursuing an undergraduate degree to live and study in the Middle East. I had begun planning my sojourn a year and a half before I left, starting the research process on the internet. I spent an inordinate amount of time scouring the web and was able to uncover only limited and out-of-date information on certain programs. I left with more questions than when I began the process. I turned to university resources. My university's International Center was useful for general advice on going abroad, but I was still left to my own devices to figure out more information on the individual programs and find the best fit for myself. I had asked professors for their advice, but they were limited in their knowledge, and few of my fellow students or alums in my Arabic program were available to discuss their experiences, and even fewer had been on programs that I was interested in. So I ended up back on the internet. Finally, I found the contact information for a student from South Carolina that had studied on a scholarship in Syria. I was so grateful he took the time to answer all of my questions, and he gave me lots of great advice. Eventually, I too chose to study in Syria. The time-consuming process of navigating and finally arriving upon a great Arabic program and location has spawned the idea for one of the primary functions of babsharki.org, which is to provide a comprehensive list of programs of study. It will be accompanied by user reviews that cite the merits and disadvantages of each program and location, as well as question and answer forums to give the students the tools to select the program that is right for their individual needs and objectives. Many students are hesitant to study abroad because of the perceived high cost, which is why babsharki.org will help make students aware of the scholarships available. My time in Syria was supported by a David L. Boren Scholarship for the study of languages critical to US national security. Funding for this scholarship almost eliminated the financial burden of taking a year off to study abroad and fit in with my interest in working in the US government after graduation, as it's a requirement of the scholarship. Finding out about opportunities like the Boren Scholarship, as well as connecting with past scholarship recipients, will be another main component of this website. Being aware that the unexpected happens and encouraging the development of backup plans is another service babsharki.org will provide to students. I happened to choose an incredible time to study in the Middle East. The Arab Spring broke out in Syria in March of 2011 in the midst of my program. I was evacuated shortly after the US State Department issued a travel warning. It was a confusing and hectic process to evacuate from Syria and find another study program in neighboring Jordan. which is why I will be including a section dedicated to the latest travel alerts and warnings and steps to help mitigate risk. Getting the permission to come and stay in some of these countries in the Middle East is another challenging task babsharky.org will address. Syria made it very difficult, confusing, and time-consuming for American students to obtain a visa. I had to ship my passport back to the US in January of 2011 to renew it, and I found myself without a passport when the Arab Spring broke out. After the visa was issued and sent back to my house in California, my mother went to ship it to me in Damascus, but FedEx, UPS, and DHL all refused on the grounds that US export laws banned sending things to Syria without an export control license. My mother's former office agreed to send the documents under the license, but only to have the package lost by DHL, who blamed it on Homeland Security. Luckily, my congressional representative helped clear the confusion, and the passport eventually made it back to me. After such a nightmare, babsharky will surely include country-specific guidance for obtaining visas, as well as discussion forums so that students can be aware of the latest requirements and problem solve together. Residency permits will also fall in this category because it's not enough to simply obtain a visa to come. In many cases, students must also undergo a Byzantine and bureaucratic process to register with the country's Ministry of Interior in order to stay longer than a few weeks. Many Arabic study abroad programs do not provide housing, and it usually cannot be arranged until arrival in the country. When I first arrived in Damascus, I stayed in a hotel and asked shopkeepers and other foreigners living in the Christian quarter if there was an available apartment to rent, which is actually a standard process for foreign students in Damascus. When later I was evacuated to Jordan, I had no time to pre-arrange housing. I stayed at the French Research Center, which was only meant to be temporary, but housing in Amman proved difficult to come by. I tried looking for a housing board at the American Embassy. I looked online at websites like expatriates.com, and I asked Arabic programs and their students if they were aware of an available apartment. But after a month, I gave up because there were few good options. These difficulties have inspired a housing and homestay section of my website with Craigslist-style listings organized by city and country. Students, both before they arrive in their host country and once they are living there, are often left wondering to themselves about how to take care of daily needs. A couple of examples of things I had wanted to know before I left were how students had access to their money or whether or not students drank the tap water. After living in Syria, my advice would be open a bank account in a Middle Eastern bank if you're planning on staying longer than a couple months to avoid transaction fees, but preferably a non-Syrian bank, as we know how assets in those banks ended up. And I did drink the tap water, but I wouldn't recommend it, as I did see algae, among other living things, come out of my faucets in the old city. Useful and practical wisdom like this can be shared on babsharky's open discussion forums on practicalities ranging from transportation to books and libraries to food and restaurants. Thus far, I have spoken mainly about how babsharky.org will help meet the logistical needs of students planning to study abroad. However, the final component of my website is one of the most important components of a study abroad experience. That is American interactions with native and local citizens of the host country. This is key to cross-cultural understanding. The tutors and language exchange partners I met in Syria and in Jordan were an invaluable support and an incredible source of wisdom and insight into their culture, as well as the common human experience. babsharky.org will offer a space for user-generated recommendations for language exchange partners and tutors. In the future, I foresee babsharky possibly extending in several directions. The base architecture could be applied for the development of websites for studying other languages in the region. Eventually, I would also like to create a complementary website for facilitating Arabs coming to the United States to study. And I also hope to one day have the capital to offer scholarships. As for the next step in the process, I hope the Amends delegates and affiliates here today can offer their suggestions for improvement to the concept and possibly contribute to the content of the site as well. I'm still in need of more funding, web developers with the technical expertise to build the website, and volunteers with other non-technical expertise, maybe including student representatives for countries and programs. Americans are not the only ones that have the capacity to contribute. Arabs can provide valuable support as well. In conclusion, I want the site to be as democratic as possible. The motto of babsharki.org is your gateway to Arabic study abroad. I have faith in the success of this initiative because of my faith in two groups of people in which the site depends upon. First, those that work to support these language and cultural exchange programs. They are open-minded, compassionate, and ready to share their experiences and experiences and knowledge with people that come from a different background. Second, I have great faith in the community of Americans choosing to study abroad in the Middle East. It is a small yet strong group. They are passionate, adventuresome, and kind-hearted. Those that come to study in the Middle East are motivated by a desire to support equality and justice and to find peace. I hope all of us can work together as a community to support the next generation of students who grew up hearing about the Middle East as a heart of a new wave of revolutions. Thank you for your time.